Good evening, everyone. It's hard to see all of you with the lights here. So I think we can agree that...
How do you know they're there?
I think we can agree that health is really one of the slower industries to adopt and really integrate technology, especially when it comes to the patient experience. Most of us probably know more about our Spotify playlists and our bank accounts than we do about what's in our health records. I think probably fair to say. I know that's the case with me. And it's changing, I know. And what's interesting is that that change is coming from not within the health industry, but from outside, from patients, who are really pushing for it, as well as the private sector. So, David, let's start with you and talk about what you're hearing as a cancer doctor. Are you seeing patients demanding more of what they're getting in the rest of their lives, as they shop, as they bank, all of the kind of convenience and transparency that they're seeing? Are you seeing them sort of surprised that they don't have that same control and ability with their health information?
Unfortunately not. I push patients to technologies and I say, hey, listen, you coming in and me checking your blood pressure makes no sense. I want you to come in with 3 weeks of data so I can make the right decision. You have a wearable, how was your sleep? I don't know, I didn't really check it. I wanted that data. I want to know how you're sleeping, how much movement you get, et cetera. And it still has not been normalized to share it with the physician. There's no way to enter that information easily with an API to your electronic health record. And if I can't put it in an electronic health record, I can't bill for collecting it. Most doctors don't do it. And so it's a difficult situation. We're doing a clinical trial with the Oura Ring, actually, which is pretty cool, with the new GLP drugs, right? We know these drugs affect the brain, right? They affect addiction and other things. Well, how is it affecting sleep and stress? We're measuring that in our patients. And we've never done things like that before.
What is the barrier? Why is it so hard? Do you think, is it the physicians who are kind of, you're asking, but not every physician is asking, right? Or do people just not appreciate the power that they have in, let's talk about wearables really, which is I think the way most people interact with these things and get information. Is it people that they're just looking at it as a novelty, more of a novelty?
The wearables are a transaction, right? It gives you your glucose, it gives you your steps, your heart rate variability. It doesn't have the other metadata around your health. So you don't perceive it part of your real health. And I think the next generation will start to meld the electronic health record, this information, and then we need to incentivize, right? I could do whatever I want and there's no ramifications. So if you said, listen, if you move enough, I'm gonna give you a discount on your health insurance as an employer, I'm gonna do it and integrate it with my health record. If the doctor asks me about it and tells me a way to improve my sleep, how many doctors know how to use this data and tell a patient how to improve their sleep? I would bet you the number is very low. And so we need to go on the education side in order to normalize this so it should be part of our record. Listen, you look at the impact of sleep and movement on health, and it's profound, and yet we don't collect that information.
I'm going to come back to that, but Oura is now, Shyamal, on its 4th generation, right? Since being launched in 2015. Tell us what you're seeing about how the Ring has evolved from its original version and how that is a reflection of what you're hearing back from users like David.
Yeah, so Oura was founded 10 years ago, 11 years actually now. And when the company was founded, the focus was on sleep, right? And if you did a poll like 10 years ago or 11 years ago, and did a survey and said, how much would you want to get a wearable to tell you about your sleep? I think the response would be largely that, I know how I slept, right? Like I don't need a wearable device to tell me how I slept last night. And so there was a huge bet that was made that sleep is like 1/3 of our life, is typically spent sleeping, and that we need to understand it better. So that was the bet, and that's where the company started from. If you look at where we are today, we have expanded from sleep and tracking your activity and readiness to helping you understand your stress, mental health, your resilience. We have done incredible amount of work in the women's health space, tracking menstrual cycles, predicting periods, ovulation, tracking your health during your pregnancy. And also now, more recently, we've been venturing into this space of cardiometabolic health. So what I'm trying to get to is that, we started from sleep with the idea of building a wearable that really is designed to help you track and understand your sleep, and we've evolved over time to truly become a personal health companion that is giving you a holistic view into your health. And just to kind of build on what David was saying, I mean, we have to remember that wearable technology is still relatively new, right? We're talking like 10, maybe 15 years. And so I think we just haven't built the muscle on the healthcare side to truly think about how we ingest this data and make sense of it, right? Even if you are a clinician, an expert, I don't know how many clinicians actually know if you had like continuous health blood pressure data, how do you kind of, what do you do with it, right? Because our practice of healthcare is built around one, blood pressure measurement in your clinic, right? So I think there is a fundamentally, like, one aspect is this evolution of the technology and what we can do with it, and how many aspects of our health we can understand better because we have access to this personal health technology. And the second aspect is how do we make sense of it and bring it into the practice of healthcare?
Well, one possibility, obviously, is that it could, as David was saying, provide, not just a snapshot, right, of a health metric like blood pressure or blood glucose, but it could really give you a pattern. And that seems very powerful. But we're not in a position yet where the medical community is looking at wearables really as medical devices, right? And Aura itself has decided not to pursue FDA approval and gone straight to the consumer. So I think there's a double-edged sword there where you're looking at it, most users today probably look at it as interesting, and useful information, but like you said, it seems that we need to have kind of a next step, whether it comes from the medical community or from the industry, to really turn that into a medical device and a powerful medical tool where it can change health outcomes. Now, David, you're smiling, so I know you have something to say.
First of all, I'm allowed to smile, Alice. It's okay. Yeah, it's very interesting, is that the way things work in medicine, if you put a code to it, I can bill for it. So if I have your ambulatory blood pressure and I review that data, I can bill for doing that, and it goes in the medical record, and it counts. There's no code for interpreting Oura Ring data or Whoop data or Fitbit data, et cetera. And that's a problem. Our whole medical system is kind of backwards. Alice, you come to my office, you sit down, we check your blood pressure, we draw your bloods, we look at a bunch of things, and we say, go home, we'll call you in a few days with the results. Wouldn't it be a lot better if you collected all that data before you came, and I could actually sit and have an eye-to-eye conversation with you and talk about the data? Why should the doctor's office be the most expensive place to collect data? Doesn't make a lot of sense. We need to normalize the idea of collecting data elsewhere. There's an old adage, with enough data, error goes away. So if I check your blood pressure at 2 o'clock every day you come to see me, well, what happened in the morning when you get up? When you're pissed off after a phone call in the afternoon? When you're relaxed with a glass of wine? I want all of that data so I could really understand you and do the best thing for your health outcome.
So Shyamal, what role does a company that has a powerful product like the Oura Ring that can collect a lot of this data, as you were outlining for us? I mean, that's an incredible amount of data that could be very useful for health outcomes. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on what role a company that produces devices like this has in bridging that gap and making something like that happen, making it possible for people now to really use that data and turn that data into something more than just something that lives on your cloud.
Yeah, so I've been working in the space of wearable tech for about 20 years. The first, I would say, 75% of my career was more on the medical device healthcare side, and that's where I saw a lot of interesting problems to tackle. Like, it was, compared to what was happening on the wearable tech side, where it was mostly focused on step counting and things that maybe not like what you described. It's more like curiosity, and and I've actually seen, since I joined Aura almost four years ago, I have seen more impact that I've had in this part of my career in terms of like really helping people understand their health and health outcomes through the product that we build. And the simple thing that I've seen that works really well is empowering the healthcare consumer, right? So what we like think about Aura members are as our first job is really to empower them with health information and insights. And from that point of view, in a way, we are first and foremost a health education company. So once you start using our product, you start learning about your health. You start understanding, what happens when you do X to your sleep. Like you have a glass of wine late, your heart rate during the night goes up, your HRV goes down, you get poor quality of sleep, and you start making that association. So that there is an education that is happening, right? So that's the first part, and where we see this sort of an empowered healthcare consumer that is sort of emerging. Then, as we go down deeper, what we want to do is to start empowering the interactions between the healthcare consumer and the healthcare provider, a doctor. So we've done a number of things where we are making it easier for Aura members to bring their health data into their conversations with their doctors through essentially, like the simplest way we have done it is by helping you export like a report that you can bring. Just print it out, bring your data, and have an informed conversation. There could be a lot of better ways to do that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to be fair, you have an excellent product, and I love it. I'm wearing it. But Apple has said, hey, listen, here's our atrial fibrillation algorithm. Let's get it regulatorily, if there's such a word, approved, so that we can actually use it with our patients, and they do. I'd love you to do that with some of these metrics.
Yeah, and I think that's on our roadmap ahead. And you'll see that. But I think that's where.
And by the way, now is when you tell the audience, reach under your chair, and there's an Aura ring for it.
We do have a booth out there, so you can definitely. There might be something waiting there. But I think that's where we are. So last year we got approved for FSA, HSA, right? So we're starting to kind of make these moves where we are starting to bring our data into healthcare. Today we just announced our partnership with Essence Healthcare, and they have a Medicare Advantage plan where the eligible members in that plan will get an Aura ring and the membership for free. And on top of that, they'll be able to integrate their Aura data into the care management platform that Essence has, so that the patients can have a more informed discussion with their doctors.
How do you know if that project worked?
We'll find out.
How will you know? What's the metric you're studying to know if it actually impacted?
I think the metric that we and Essence would be interested in is health outcomes, right? Are you actually able to approach health management in a proactive way and reduce, poor health outcomes, right? That's the best metric to look at.
But those are the kind of studies, right, David, that you as a physician are probably looking for when you are saying you're getting a report from Aura, but you want to see that data validated, right? You want to have some kind of indication that
I want two things. I want to
you
know,
can
first
act
of all,
on that.
it's real. I mean,
Right.
And I will accept, hey, in this patient, the data is indeterminate, so don't make decisions on it. Or this patient, so I want a probability it's accurate, because it's not going to be accurate in everybody for a number of reasons. And number two is I want to know that it changed their behavior. It matters, right? If they have a technology and I spend time on it, it's not changing their outcome, it's a waste of my time and their time.
Right. So they slept more, or they reduced their, cholesterol.
My
reduced
kid,
their
who's the
risk of heart
biggest geek
attack,
in the
whatever it
world,
might be.
don't tell anybody that, notice that when he wore blue light glasses, he got more deep sleep with one of these biometrics. And he did a little thing at school, told all of his friends, and changed their behavior. That's pretty cool.
So what role then is the next step, if we have these products out there now? We've got Apple that you mentioned, with their venture into hearing aids now and hearing tests. What role does the regulatory authority have in this? Do we need to start seeing the government setting guidelines for how these, especially with wearables, how they should be used in the healthcare industry, how doctors, could be interpreting that data? What role does the government and the FDA play in this?
Which government will we have in a month? Which one are you asking
Whichever
about?
one we have.
I think that there is, this, at least in the US, you have this sort of fairly complex ecosystem of payers, providers, patients. Now you can add health technology companies to that mix. And I think one of the issues, and I would love to hear what David thinks about this, is there is this sort of misaligned interest. Like the interests of all of these players are not necessarily always aligned. So I think there's a real need for strong partnerships between these stakeholders to focus on driving better health outcomes. And when that has happened, actually, we have seen those outcomes, right? So there was a really interesting program at Ochsner Health and focused on essentially digital management of hypertension. And a 90-day prospective assessment of that program revealed that the folks who had access to the digital health program, 70% of them were able to manage their hypertension compared to 31% in the sort of the standard care program. So I think when you have the technology side of things, the healthcare systems and the providers, they work together to actually integrate it and deliver something that is truly, an experience that people want to have. I think you can see the outcomes. It's more.
You have to divide it into two buckets, though. Bucket number one is the technology accurate? And there certainly is a government role for setting standards. You have to be within X standard deviations of pulse, of heart rate, of it to be accurate, and so you could state that. And then the second is when you make claims, right? Using this will help you manage your blood pressure better, your sleep better, et cetera. Those are separate things, and they're both very important, but obviously right now most companies are doing neither.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that there is, on the regulatory side, in terms of quality and making sure that what you're building meets a certain quality bar, I think the government has a role to play. But I fundamentally believe that the technology itself, like we care deeply about scientific validation and accuracy. We want our members to trust the data that is coming from these, the rings, and to make healthcare decisions. It's a big responsibility, right? So I would argue that health tech, generally speaking, it's something that we would care about and push and invest in making making more accurate technologies. Yeah.
But I think two of the barriers that we're seeing right now is that cost for one thing, and with the Oura Ring in particular, it's several $100s, which puts it out of reach for many. And secondly is the point that David raised, which is that if it's not validated and it's not part of that medical ecosystem, then it continues to be more of a curiosity, more of a, it's great to have, but, we're not quite sure what to do with it. And as we're seeing here from this discussion, it's very clear that these wearables in particular can really be powerful medical devices, particularly when it comes to prevention, which our health system is so bad at promoting. And you can see the potential here for having something like an Oura Ring, which could really kind of shift and change the conversation around preventive health and help more people to be aware and proactive about their health. And I think that's the interesting question as we look forward in coming years with increasing technology products and new iterations of things like the Oura Ring, where we might go with that, and how, David, do you see the potential there, and how we can really transform health to be less reactive and more proactive?
I'm smiling because I agree with everything you said, and that never happens. Yeah, listen, we have
what will it take to happen?
We have no choice. We have a runaway train, which is healthcare costs in our country. And so, unfortunately, we have to start to move toward value-based care. So interventions that can affect outcome are what we need, and we need companies to put the capital up front and do the studies to show they can affect outcome, period. And once we do that, those are the technologies that we should all push and enable our patients to use, and they have to be accessible. If you get a CMS billing code, you're going to get reimbursement from an insurance company. Insurance companies reimburse or pay for the ring when they show it can reduce costs. They're not stupid. If you show this can make people sleep better, have less hypertension and less heart attacks, of course every company will pay for it, and that's where things have to go. But right now, you need to push these companies to start to put some capital up front and take risk, because they're not. They're going to the wealthy consumers, to all of us, and they're saying, hey, buy our rings and support us, which is great to start, but that next step has to come.
I think, I would argue that to some extent that might be true. but the equation has changed. Like you know, as I
You
was
sound like a politician.
yeah, maybe in the next phase of my career. Yeah. But I actually think that the value equation has shifted quite a bit. I actually would argue that it's not a curiosity anymore. We see our members engaging, you know, if it was a curiosity, you would lose interest after some time, right? Mm-hmm. And we see a consistent pattern of engagement and deep engagement. I think the thing that is interesting is that the engagement looks different. It's not going to be something that is the same for everyone, right? Depending on where you are in your life and your health journey, that engagement will look different. But we see deep engagement with our product, and I think that the cost side of things, right? When you think about the value that these products are providing, the Oura Ring, as I was describing, like you can get a pretty holistic picture of your health. The cost to value equation has shifted quite dramatically, and I think it will continue to push in a direction where then you would say this is a product that costs $300, right? But you're getting the functionality of a medical device that could potentially cost thousands of dollars, right? You get an AFib patch, right? You know, I don't know what the cost is, but you're probably talking about several $100s at least, right? For just one thing that you're trying to do. And that's just one feature of the wearables, right? And along with everything else that you're getting. So I think that when you start thinking about like what this sort of value equation is, how the value equation is shifting, plus things like, you know, becoming these products becoming eligible for FSA, HSA, being covered by your health insurance, maybe your employer. I think the accessibility is going to continue to become better and better.
Great.
And I think that's only going to increase if, you know, it were sort of approved and given like a CMS code even more.
Absolutely.
So you're making the argument,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well,
this is going to happen. I think we're at the beginning of still at the, I feel sometimes we forget that this is just like 10 years in or 15 years in.
Right.
I feel like there's a long way to go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
So Shyamal, David, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing what happens in the next year, and maybe we can come back and see where we are in another year. Thank you.
Thank you all.